All right, rolling into October. So market conditions last time we talked was end of summer. So what are you seeing and where do you think we're going?
Definitely a shift. I knew we knew it was coming, but I think the reality is it's here. So we have obviously an election coming up. You always see that shift when that's happening. But I think I'm starting to see now it's affecting things like inspections, appraisals, even pricing, where 6 months ago, a year ago, some weren't even having inspections. It wasn't even a
Hmm.
thing. They were doing that to win the house per se. Now, pretty much everybody, which I've always recommended to my clients anyway, are having inspections and coming back with lists of things where before, if they even tried to do something like that, that seller could move on to the next buyer. So, not as much of that multiple offer situation. There's still a few out there, but definitely not as competitive for a seller in that regard. So, I'm definitely seeing that for sure.
Okay. So with that in mind, and you're going over pricing and everything else, because I know this conversation we had previously is, you may be going through comps and they may still think that the market's going up and they want to price a little bit above that. So how are you navigating that conversation with sellers?
Yeah, it's almost back 5, even maybe 10 years ago, where now when you sit down with those comps, those are the numbers. I know last year, 2 years ago, we could price this thing 25,000 over and someone would give us that additional cash or an appraisal guarantee or whatever. Um, that's not the case anymore, or at least not in my world. Um, and you're not seeing as many appraisal guarantees. And I will tell you, over the last probably couple months, I've had some appraisals fall short. Surprising appraisals too. Ones that I thought were slam dunks. We were very comfortable, didn't have appraisal guarantees on them, but the numbers made sense. And I'm still seeing them fall short.
Mm.
I've had to do, I think, 3 rebuttals in the last couple months. I haven't had to do that many in 2 years. So I think when you're talking to your sellers, it's so important to say, these numbers that we're looking at, these are the numbers. We can't inflate those numbers because if we're doing that, we're going to end up either losing time on market because buyers won't bite, or we're going to end up losing money at the end because the appraisers will not come to that number. So
Are you getting pretty heavy pushback on that regarding the seller, or do they typically see your point of view and are willing to price it aggressively?
I think I'm getting a little bit of both. The people that think their house is the $1 million house when it's really the $600,000 house, those are the challenging ones because those are the ones where it's like, your house is great. It's amazing. But I have to go off the facts. I have to go off what I have. That's a challenging one for some of those. Some who are in a position where, like, hey, I have to sell. I'm ready to go. Those people are more realistic. They're like, okay, if that's the number and I can get that number and I can get it now versus 3 months down the road going through all these hoops, then let's just do that and move forward. So it's kind of two different schools of thought on, what sellers are thinking.
Yeah, yeah. And you had mentioned appraisals. So we've had a couple of agents run into issues with that. So one, how do you navigate the actual conversation with the appraiser when you're trying to rebut it?
Okay.
And two, have you had any luck with it?
So the first thing I do, just to kind of go just one step before that, is I always send my comps to an
Okay.
appraisal. Kind of like, oh, hey, since you're going, I'll just shoot these over to you, and just fingers crossed that they take a look at them. Um, and when they book an appointment, I always call the appraiser and just say, hey, saw you booked an appointment. When you're there, if you have any questions, call me. If there's any details you need, just so it's kind of more like a human interaction versus computer. So I start with that. As far as when the appraisal comes back, I had one come back that I'm still stunned about. That came in 20,000 low on something that, when I look at the comps, looks pretty ironclad. It's pretty apparent that these numbers made sense. And so I rebutted it, and the appraiser did not adjust. So what I've had to do is, when I approach my seller, because that's the hardest part of the whole thing, is then you got to approach your seller and tell them, um, is, hey, we have a couple options. We can go back to this buyer and say, can we split the difference here? Can we make everybody happy? Because we have comps to prove it. The appraiser, for whatever reason, didn't see it the way we did, but there are comps to prove it. We bring our price down, or we walk. And in the process of walking, I then share with them the holding costs of doing that, the time on market that could now affect the next buyers coming in when they see that, and that number might be even lower than what the appraisal came in at. So, kind of, trying to let them understand the effects it could have if we did walk away completely. So, it's a tough one though.
Yeah, and it's almost like, the leverage and negotiation is swung more to balance more of a balanced market because like, 6, 12, 18 months ago, a buyer wouldn't, yeah, I'll pay whatever it takes to get the
Right.
deal done. But now, like you said, there's inspection issues, there's appraisal issues. So do you feel like buyers feel like they have a little bit more leverage and negotiation in this market right now?
For sure. And
Yeah.
and they do. It's not a myth. They really do. Number one, interest rates are a little bit lower. So that's giving them more buying power. I think the buyers that are buying right now waited out that market last year and the year before. So to them, this is prime because they weren't willing to play in that sandbox where it was, crazy over asking, cash offers, things like that. So now they've kind of waited and now they feel like it's their turn.
Hmm.
But like I said, most of my buyers and even buyers that I have on my listings, they're all doing inspections now. They're all, they're not guaranteeing appraisals. They're saying, "Hey, it's my turn to like do this the right the way it used to be." Um, so yeah, I'm definitely seeing that shift for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So on the buyer note, I've had a couple agents too, there just seems to be more issues with deals and more things coming up. And one of those is a buyer trying to switch lenders mid deal.
Oh,
And I know you've had that happen to you a couple times. So how do
I'm
you
in one,
navigate
matter of fact.
that?
We're in the heat of one right now.
Yes.
Um,
So how do you handle that?
so I'll give you the perfect example because it happened to me at 8 o'clock this morning. So I get a call from my buyer, who's also a seller, by the way. I'm selling their house on this end. So I use that to my advantage. And they said, "We think we want to switch lenders." Now, keep in mind, we're through inspection, ready to order the appraisal yesterday. And they didn't order the appraisal, which now makes sense. But at the time, I was kind of like, they'll order it tomorrow, no big deal. And they said, "We think we can get a better deal."
Mm,
So I investigated a little bit. Tell me why you think that. Who have you spoke with? Well, we're just hearing it on the news. We're hearing it from the internet. Okay. So who have you called? We haven't called anybody yet. So my conversation this morning was, well, we have about 12 hours to do that because we need to have a decision today. That's the first thing because we cannot delay this when you have closing dates lined up. It just can't happen. Secondly, the contract terms have to stay the same. So if we put in there that you are doing a conventional loan, 20% down, those have to stay the same or you're out of contract. Now, obviously, we know we could change those terms, but what we're really trying to do is get them to make that decision, keep the same terms, and get moving forward. Obviously, if I'm going from conventional to FHA, we have a problem. So we
yeah.
don't want to take that path. And then the third thing is that I then tell them, if you were the seller, which they are, on your home, and a buyer did that, how would you feel? What would your thoughts be? It's a little unnerving when you think, wait a minute here, they were pre-approved, we did all these things, and now they're thinking about switching to someone brand new. What kind of hoops does that put us in?
Hmm.
So that's how I navigated the one this morning, letting them know, like I said, we need a decision today. But I also told them it is your decision. In the future, what I'm gonna do, because it's happened twice already in the last couple weeks, um, is let them know up front, hey, before you get your pre-approval, I want you to call at least two lenders. Because once we get this process rolling, it's really hard for us to make that switch comfortably, especially if you're the buyer on a house that's maybe competitive. We don't want you switching in the middle and possibly losing that deal.
Right.
So that's kind of how I'm going to have to navigate it going forward because it's happening a lot more.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of fun, right? So, okay, that's you handling it on your buyer side, but what if you're on the listing side and the other agent and buyer are trying to switch lenders mid-deal? How do you handle that from the listing side?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Sketchy.
Yeah, because if I have to go to my seller and say, "Hey, they're switching lenders," the first thing that would pop in my mind as a seller would be, "Are they not qualified? What's wrong
Yep,
here?"
something's
Some
wrong.
it's red flag. Um, and if it's to save a buck, and I mean, if there could be significant savings. That's great. That should have been done up front. But at the end of the day, I will tell my seller, first of all, if they switch lenders, we're going to make sure the terms are the same. We're going to make sure, and just like I do on a pre-approval before an offer, I'm going to call that lender immediately. I want all the details. How quickly can they get it done? Are we still going to keep our closing date intact? Is the integrity of the loan still going to be good to go? And if I feel like it really is, then I can semi comfortably say, I think you're going to be okay. But if I have any reason to not, I will call that agent and say, my client's not willing to do that. They're not
Hmm.
comfortable with that. But it's a tough one. That's a tough conversation because I know exactly where my mind would go. So,
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So now it's been, what, a month, couple months since the commission thing passed in August. I mean, any major changes? I know last conversation we had, you had a couple adaptations, but anything really earth shattering since before?
no, I feel kind of like it comes up a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
it comes up a lot. There's a conversation daily with people. Hey, and sometimes it's just a casual like conversation with a friend. What's going on with that real estate thing? And they don't know the whole story. They don't
Hmm.
understand it. They don't have to. That's not their job. But I think they want to understand it. So when I talk to them, I basically say, here's kind of what it is, but it doesn't really affect people because the concept of why we've ever offered buyer's commission is still the same. It's to bring in a buyer's agent that's got the best qualified buyer. And if me as a seller am not doing that, then there's a risk there that I'm either going to get lower offers because the buyer's paying commission out, or I'm not going to get the best buyers in there because those agents aren't willing to show the property.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, but you just kind of I shouldn't say you. I have to explain it to them as being, this is standard business. Our job here is to entice these buyers agents to come in. So don't shortchange them because eventually in this process, somewhere that's going to come out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, that's being taken care of, it sounds like. And so looking at rolling into the fourth quarter, what are you doing for your business that's not only going to finish out the year strong, but making sure you set up a strong first quarter for next year?
The thing I'm definitely doing right now, and it's working well, is I am reaching out to any past clients, new interest rates, opportunities. The market, in my opinion, what I'm seeing right now, the market's really busy. It's it's been a good chunk of time right here where it almost feels a little bit comfortable and safe because we have literally have buyers coming out and being able to get offers accepted, sellers listing and getting good qualified buyers. So for me to be able to reach out to those people that I didn't wasn't able to get houses for last year, or sellers were kind of nervous, I can now do that and hopefully push those people over the edge. So,
So how does that conversation go when you're reaching out to a past client?
well, with the seller, and I do call outs every Tuesday with a group of people. And so with the seller, which is what we were calling yesterday, my conversations are, hey, I know last year your concerns were that you couldn't find a property to buy, or, you were afraid of what timelines you were looking at. This market has changed. And I think there's some really positive things that we need to talk about. So that would be to a seller. The buyer one's easy. Hey, interest rates came down. There's days on market actually happening versus ours. We have an opportunity for you to get an inspection and have a reasonable priced offer. Let's go check things out. So,
Hmm.
I mean,
And
there
people are
is
pretty receptive to that?
what's that?
And people are pretty receptive to that?
I mean, yeah. Again, it's an education. So, if as
Yeah.
long as I'm telling them what's real, that's why when I speak to my clients, I'm very upfront, I'm very honest with them
Mhm.
about, hey, here, this is not a good time for you as a buyer because your cap is here. and your budget puts you in a place that's a deficit, where now I can say, hey, guess what, this is a good time for you. So as long as I build that trust with them, and they're comfortable that, hey, she's calling me because she's really believes this, then typically that conversation's pretty easy to have.
Okay. And yeah, so like she said, anyone watching, she does call out sessions on Tuesdays from the Orient office at 11 o'clock for about an hour.
Yeah, we go as long as we want. I mean, hour's the minimum. Anybody is welcome. So we want you guys to come because, number one, selfishly, it helps me. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me active. This is what we do every day. We're supposed to be talking to people and getting out there. And for you guys, I actually do it with a group of people, but then there's also a couple of us that are coaches. So being coaches, you're going to get free, insight and conversation so that we're all learning together. So it's an awesome opportunity, but definitely if you can take advantage of it, come in for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's free. You have a top producer on the CB side and a coach and multiple coaches who show up every week on Tuesday
Mhm.
to help you lead generate. So if you're in a point where you need to refill your pipeline or you need to get things up and rolling for next year, or you just want to learn how
Right.
you actually lead generate through the phone, I mean, it's free and you just got to show up and drive to the office and get there by 11.
Right. Well, the other thing that's interesting about it is when we get there, all these conversations, yes, we do our lead generation, but then we also are talking about, oh my gosh, I had an appraisal come in bad. What would you do in this? I have this scenario going on. What would you do with this? It's awesome because there's perspectives that you just don't even think of when you're in your zone. And so we as a group, I mean, I even text these people outside of call out, we chat and like, hey, what happened with this deal? I know you were talking about this deal. So those things for me are just as beneficial because I then am like, that's a good idea. That's a good
Hmm.
way to do it. So you just get a lot of different perspectives.
Why do you think agents do everything humanly possible to avoid picking up the phone?
Oh, it's fear. They're so nervous. It's actually funny because I used to be that person, I
Hmm.
hated it. Now it's easy, and the only reason it's easy is number one, I've practiced so much of how I'm going to handle a situation, but also I realize that's the only way I'm going to get business. I'm not saying you can't get business in other facets, but at some point you have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So otherwise you're really not going to get anything. So when I do that, I feel like okay, now there's the reward. I realize now it has paid off for me. But I do have agents that, I mean, that phone is like fire. They're like, nope, I cannot touch that phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have to get over that hurdle because if you don't, it's not just about picking up the phone. It's about even that confidence to walk into somebody's house that you have to build it. So it's not just like, hey, I picked up my phone and made a call. Great. It's about, hey, I know what I'm doing. People trust me and I am good at what I do. So I'm going to go out and share it with other people.
Yeah.
So,
And like
yeah.
we talked about, your presentation starts the second you pick up the phone and they say hello. Like that's first impression, right? And so if you can't even pick up the phone and talk to somebody, how do you think you're gonna get
You
any business? You're not gonna get any opportunities,
right. Well, I mean, think about
right?
it. If somebody came to my door and was going to list my house and they were nervous and they looked a little like, well, here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
and on the other side, if someone comes in and they're really confident and I feel comfortable that I don't even have to think about this, they know they've got it. That's what I want. That's why I'm paying that commission. And that's why when you tell me that I'm paying 6% in commission and you're the confident one that I trust, it's not even a conversation.
It's
So
worth it.
it's totally worth it because you're out of the loop. You're just there. I will
Hmm.
take care of everything. I will always keep you informed, but you can trust that I do know what I'm doing and that I will continue to do the best for you. So they don't question these things that some of these others are getting questions on.
Oh yeah. And if you question yourself, they'll pick up on that. And
Oh,
it's funny too, because everyone sees how confident you are now. But when we talked 5 years ago, I made her pick up the phone and her hand would like visibly shake because she was so nervous and scared to talk to people. I think I still have your recorded calls from 5 years ago I can send out in my email. I just have
love
to
to
track
do
them
that.
down.
Or
But
the listing presentation that I first did for you. Let's not
oh
share that
yeah,
either.
I have that too. It's on my YouTube. So that was fun. So we covered a bunch of good stuff though. I mean, anything else you'd like to throw out there to add value to anyone watching?
Um, no, I mean, yes and no. The thing I think is the most important is if you do struggle with that confidence, if
Yeah.
and most people do, it's just a reality. The only way you're going to get over it is by doing what makes you uncomfortable, which is why these Tuesdays, you can do it in your own office. I don't care where you do it, but if you can build that up, you are going to be so blown away. Give yourself a couple months of uncomfortable, keep doing it, and you will be shocked at how you will feel when you look back and go, wow. And then you'll be more shocked when you look at your numbers and go, oh, wow. So you just have to get uncomfortable because it's hard to do. It stinks. Nobody likes it. I didn't like it. But I did not get here by being comfy for sure. So,
That's a good topic too that I like to wrap on. So how often would you say in your daily life are you comfortable?
oh, never. I mean, rarely. And it's not that it's a bad uncomfortable. It's a I and I'm sure any one of us who wants to be successful runs at a very high level. I mean, I it's go 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 and not just work, life, everything. And so when you do that, you're never comfortable because it's the next challenge. Everything's a challenge versus everything being like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll just see how it goes. I don't do a, hey, I'll see how it goes. I'm like, if I'm not here, then I'm not doing everything.
Then the world's coming to an end.
The world's coming to an end. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's discomfort. It's almost kind of an exciting feeling. You know, it almost makes your heart beat a little bit faster and gives you a little more energy because that's how we roll. You're the same
Yeah.
way. So don't act like you're not.
Oh, I am. I would say that the times I'm comfortable are probably when I'm working out the hour of the day and then when I'm sleeping. Other than that, I really don't have a
I'm
lot of
not sure I
comfort.
even sleep comfortable. I think I wake up like, what do I have to do
Yeah.
today? What's next? You know.
I wake up at least 2, 3 times every night. But
So,
yeah, to your point, I mean, when you seek uncomfortability, that's growth. And the more problems you solve, the more they're going to come your way because that's how you convey value.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you just got to get used to it. You have to embrace it because when you are uncomfortable, that means you're growing. And when you are comfortable, that means you're plateauing or you're dying.
Right. And there's a comfort in uncomfortable though. Like
Yeah.
there's a comfort in me knowing that all this uncomfortable stuff I'm doing is paying off.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, good. What you're doing makes sense. It's not me just spinning my wheels to feel uncomfortable or to make myself stressed out, which I never get stressed out, by the way. It's just not
Sure. You're a good liar.
my nature. But those things are what actually the comfort of it is that, hey, I am going to push, push, push because it's going to take me somewhere.
Yep.
So that's
It always does.
kind of a
So
circle.
everyone watching, do something today that is going to make you uncomfortable and do that every single day for a week and see how much confidence you'll gain from doing that. It doesn't matter how small it is,
Right.
but just pick something that's going to make you a little uncomfortable and then voluntarily choose to do it.
I love it.
See what happens. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Got some good stuff. Thank you again for investing your time. Thank you for showing up 15 minutes late. It was great. And
Sent the wrong link. I just want you all to know that.
I did not send the wrong link. She just can't read.
Whatever.
So enjoy this. Give us a like, give us a comment, and be on the lookout for some more stuff and go get some business, guys.
Bye.